Okay, let's talk next about the median, our second measure of central tendency or location. And the median is the value that splits a variable or data into two equal halves after the data has been sorted. So for example, you may hear median income. So if you take a country, when you line up the people in that country from their lowest to the highest income, and then you go to the middle, that would be the median income. And when we calculate it, it is a little bit, if you have large data, it doesn't matter, but just for accuracy, let's say if we have 4 observations. So let's say, imagine we have 4 observations. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we have 4 observations. And let's say those are 4 children and we look at their age. So let's say one kid is 2, the other one is 3, and the other one is 6, and the other one is 7. Well, the midpoint now would be between 2 and 3, right? So that would be here. So that means whenever the number of observations is even, the median would be, in a simple textbook exposition, the average of the 2 middle values. So now the average here, or the median I mean, would actually be 4.5, because that's the midpoint between 3 and 6. But if we had an odd number of observations, so let's say we have an odd number, let's say we have 5 observations, and there's another observation which is maybe the child is 10. So now it is easy to say that the value that splits the data into 2 equal halves is the 3rd observation, because now I have 2 to the left, 2 to the left and 2 to the right. So whenever the number of observation is odd, just like here, the median is the value of the middle observation. But if the number of observation is even, as in the previous example, the median is the average of the 2 middle values. And the median has also other names. It is also known as the 50th percentile or the 2nd quartile. But what is important at this point is that the median is the midpoint of data after the data is sorted, typically from lowest to highest. And again, another word for the median is the 50th percentile or the 2nd quartile. So therefore, let's move next to the concept of percentiles. So the percentile, so we can look at the data and we can also ask, for example, what is the 23rd percentile? So when we say, for example, when we say what is the 23rd percentile, then we want to know at what value are 23% of all values of all observations equal to the 23rd percentile value or less. So what is the 23rd percentile, for example? At what value are 23% of all observations equal to the 23rd percentile or less. So when you take, for example, a standardized test score and your percentile is 95%, that means 95% of all the people who took that test, they are either as good as you or worse. So that's a good thing. If you have a high percentile, that's a good thing. That means that 95% of all the people have a score less than you or equal to you. So in order to calculate a percentile, so this is a simplified textbook version. And if you applied that version to data in Excel, it will not be exactly the same. So this is a little bit of a simplified version, but I will also do later the Excel version. So, but the simplified textbook version is, in the first step, we need to sort the data from lowest to highest value. Then we compute the index number. So for example, we want to know the 23rd percentile. Then the P would be 23, and then we divide by 100, we get 0.23. And then we get the index number. So now, in the simplified textbook version, if that index number is an integer, then we take the average of the I and the ith plus 1th observation. And if it's not an integer, we just round up. So let's do again a quick example. Let's say we go back to our previous example, and now we have, let's say, number 1, 2, 3, 4. So let's say we have 4 observations, and the value is, let's take the previous number again, 2, 3, 6, 7. So let's say 2, 3, 6, 7. Okay, so now if I want to know the 23rd percentile, I would identify the index number, which is here. It's basically the index number. Instead of number, I should have better written I. Okay, so I do I equals 0.3 times 4, which is 0.92. So that's obviously not an integer, so I have to round up. And then I would say the median is the value at 1, because 0.92 rounded up is 1. So then I would look up, then I would say, well, the median, the 23rd percentile would be 2. And if I want to know, for example, the 25th percentile, and I had 5 observations, so now let's say I had 5 observations, and let's say that value was 10, and I want to know, for example, the 40 percentile. So now let's say you want to know the 40th percentile. Okay, so now we would do, the index number would be I equals 0.4 times 5, which is 2. Well, 2 is now an integer, so that means we have to take the average of the second and the next one. So in this case, we will take the midpoint between the second and the third. So that would be a value of 4.5. So it makes a difference whether the number of observations is odd or even. And And when you calculate the index number, it makes a difference whether the index number is an integer when you get an integer and the integers, for example, 3, so the index number would be 3, then you will take the midpoint between the third and the fourth observation. But if, let's say, the index number that you calculate is not an integer, like something with a decimal, you round up. So that is the simplest textbook version. And again, later, when we work with Excel, I'll show you how Excel slightly differs from this approach. But before we do so, let's quickly also talk about the mode. And the mode is the third indicator of central tendency, and it is simply the most frequent observation. So, and when there is only one value which is the most frequent, then we say the data or the variable under consideration is unimodal. But of course there could be data that has several modes, and then we will say the series of data is either bimodal or multimodal. So, and the mode is simply the most frequent observations. Okay, so I'll just stop here, and in the next video we'll just review again the arithmetic mean, the median, the mode, and the concept of percentiles, and we'll talk a little bit more about their specific idiosyncrasies and what to look out for.